What up? What up? What up? It's Reckley Podcast, man. I'm Randy Little. It's episode number 94. Closing in on 100. I don't know if I thought I'd do 10 episodes of this podcast, let alone 100. It's been fun though. Shout out to listeners in Germany, Australia, the UK. Just peeping out the analytics. It sounds like we spreading a little bit. That's really dope. I appreciate y'all. On this episode, I give it like I was going to last episode. Like last episode on YouTube, it's a mess. It's a shit show. It was way too long. My eyes were bigger than my stomach. I had to break it down into 3 videos on Anchor, streaming, Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. It's cool. It's 3.5 hours. It's cool. Different Q&As with different people, friends, bars. But originally, I was going to get the keys to Rocket for that episode, and we was going to chop it up, and ideas cook. So I did that. When I did that, this episode, Rocket took over, and with the release of the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, we talk about that. We talk about the Lord of the Rings trilogy. We talk about the Hobbit trilogy. Me, Rocket, Nick. More Rocket, Nick, because I'm, for lack of a better phrase, I'm a casual Lord of the Rings fan. I like the stuff. I don't go nuts over it. So yeah, that's the discussion. Bars, of course. And I ain't gonna lie to you. Recently, in the theater, it's been slim pickings. Like the Save Your Soul, Honk for Jesus, Regina Hall, Sterling K. Brown, kind of a church religious dramedy, came out this past weekend. It's also available on Peacock. And then the weekend before that, it was just like streaming movies. Me Time, Kevin Hart, Mark Wahlberg, and then Samaritan that I still haven't watched with Sylvester Stallone. Those came out. Upcoming, damn, this weekend is D23. This weekend, Pinocchio will be available. The live-action Pinocchio will be available on Disney+. And then the horror movie Barbarian will be in the theater. And then the weekend before the next episode, I guess a third Fletch movie with John Hamm is going to get like a limited run. So check that out if you can, and let me know how it is. I want to see it. And then the X prequel Pearl will be in the theater. On the Blu-ray, the DVD, the 4K, it's also been a little slim pickings. Like, again, I'm not gonna lie. 2 Tuesdays ago was the 23rd of August. So not queued up, winging it. Was that just the CW Naomi show? I believe it was. Let me verify right quick. Got some Dirty Dancing 4K. Looks like a Fern Gully re-release. Naomi, that they canceled. The CW canceled. Came on Blue. Some old stuff. Look at Mr. Malcolm's List. And then this past Tuesday was 1883, the Yellowstone spinoff. Got a physical release. Yeah, bro, like really slim pickings. Like, it's crazy. This upcoming Tuesday, again, it's slim, but at least a movie comes out. Like Minions: The Rise of Gru is coming out on Blu-ray. Paramount looks to be upgrading some Star Trek 4Ks. A Quiet Place 2 movie combo pack. Young Sheldon season 5 gets a Blu-ray, and then the following Tuesday is what really like has no respect for your pockets, because Elvis is getting a physical, Lightyear is getting a physical, Kino Labor looks to be releasing Some Girls, the final season of Lucifer. And dude, I thought there was like a bigger release that week that I'm not seeing. Looks like Canadian Bacon, Monty Python, The Meaning of Life, Fatal Attraction 4Ks, Cool World. Shout Factory is putting Cool World on physical. So, yeah, man. That's it for the Blu-ray 4K releases. Stick around for the combo. Stick around after that for some dope rhymes, man. Rec League. And we back. Sugared up last episode. Hope y'all had fun with that, because I did not have fun editing and uploading. But I got Nick, the Homelander of 4K Goodman, and executive producer for this episode, Rocket.
What's up?
What's up, guys?
What's up? Nothing.
Really quick, before Rocket takes over, I want y'all, because this is where we would usually do it. Summer movie season's officially over. Top 5 summer movies. Rocket, go, because I know Nick's not prepared.
Top 5 summer movies, I would say 5 to 1. Black Phone.
Ooh.
Yeah. I have Vengeance up in there. Not many people, it's a small movie.
Yeah, they didn't even come here.
So, and then I got The Batman and Top Gun Maverick.
Came out in March.
Oh, okay. I would definitely say Top Gun Maverick. I actually had fun with Bullet Train.
Bullet Train's definitely in mine. I'm looking for my list.
Yeah. Bullet Train for sure. I had fun with that. And then probably Prey.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't forget streaming movies.
Yeah, I would definitely throw a Prey in there.
You ready, Nick?
Yeah. I'm gonna ignore. I've got like 1 or 2 streaming movies like in the mix, but like they were more like festival movies, and then like my number 1 movie of the year kind of got its widest release in the summer, but like it's been out for ever, so I'm just not going to include it.
I'm going to say that I'm kind of jealous that you found a movie to bump The Batman from number 1.
Yeah, no, The Batman didn't make me cry, so, but I'll talk about that later, even though we've already talked about it on here. Number 5, based on my ranking, I've got Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I've got it like just above Prey, so I guess you could probably swap those out. But like, I had a lot of fun with Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Like, I don't know, it was like hook, line, and sinker, like exactly what it was. I was like super into who right up until the last second. So I love that. Number 4, I've got Thor: Love and Thunder. That's
and this episode's over.
If you don't remember,
this episode's already in the toilet.
No, sorry. I love Thor. Like, I don't know, and like it keeps going on, and I thought more and more people catch on, and like people just keep hating it more. And I'm like, what did I saw it twice.
Was it Photoshop, or did I read that Taika Bale on Thor 5?
I've not read anything official, but okay. I did see it once or twice. But like, I'll be sad if that's true. Not really, but for what it was, I thought Love and Thunder was great, and I can't wait to watch it again
on Thursday.
Yeah, well, probably not, but maybe
it's available on Disney Plus on Thursday, listener.
Yeah. Yep.
Number 3, just based on my ranking, I have Elvis. I loved Elvis. I knew I would like Elvis.
Yeah.
It started out really weird, and I was like, could feel people being like, this is weird. And I was like looking around, and I was like, all Baz Luhrmann's movies start weird, and then by the end, you're like, melted, like you're complete. And that Elvis was pretty much that. I thought Elvis. Number 2, I think might be the most underappreciated movie of the entire year so far. I have Lightyear.
My man.
I don't know, like maybe it's just because like I got to see it like with the nerds, which I didn't realize they were really Toy Story nerds.
Oh yeah.
I got to see it a couple early. It was like a special thing. It wasn't really that special, but it was just like a couple days early. And it just seemed like everyone, like the dude in front of me was like losing his mind. It was like he was watching Star Wars or something. Like, I guess minor spoiler, not really, but it was like this scene, like where his wings popped out.
Comes
like,
out in like 2 weeks.
This kid like lost his fucking mind. He was like, "Oh my god!" And like I could feel. I was like, "Yeah, this is so dope." Like his wings popped out. Like it was like the DiCaprio. Like I was like, "Oh, his wings."
Lightyear's been on Disney Plus for a month. There's no excuse why anybody shouldn't have seen it already.
Yeah, well, it's not really as fun, but like I don't know.
No, bro, there were those Buzz Lightyear like details that I needed, and I geeked out as soon as they all happened.
Yeah, like I was like, I didn't realize maybe that like I was looking for those things until I saw it, and I was like, there were certain things that were like kind of different, but I was like, this was made with so much love for Buzz Lightyear, and I thought the story was great. I loved all the characters. It was funny. It was like exciting. It was like watching Star Trek or Star Wars or something. Yes. Like that. So, and then number one, I've got Top Gun. I feel like that's what like most people have. Yeah. It was Top Gun. It was just cinema. It's like the return of cinema. If something else wasn't the return of cinema prior to this, it just feels like, I don't know, the way it feels almost like back in the day when like everyone in the world saw Titanic or something like that. It was like there was a movie that absolutely everyone in the world saw and liked the same way and talked about it the same way. It feels like that, even if it's not really on that level, like quality wise. It was just like when it was over, it was like everyone in the theater, it was like exhaled, like, wow, that was what I wanted it to be, like in every way. So I have to give it the number one of the song.
Yeah, my top four for the year. My bad, Rocky. My top four for the year, like all like had me feeling like similar ways. Like I left like loving each one. But yeah, like Top Gun was probably like the most fun. Like this had no business being this good.
Yeah, well, it's been in the top 5 for box office, you know,
all summer
for like for like 14 straight weeks.
Yes,
I mean, come on.
Yeah, and we can make fun now. Like we were just talking about, like there's nothing out now, so
it's outgrossed Infinity War.
It's like, you know, it doesn't come out till November on video, so like
crazy.
A lot of people, you still have plenty of time to go see it. We can make fun of that now, but like there was plenty of competition for Top Gun early in the summer.
Bob's Burgers.
I mean, like Doctor Strange was still playing when Top Gun came out, and then you had Thor and all that stuff. Nope. All those things that were filling up the IMAX screens, and like Top Gun just kind of stayed where it was. So it's just like a massive achievement. Like however way you look at it, even if you didn't like it, it's like you look at that and it's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me see.
That's a viable achievement.
At number 5, I got Bullet Train. Like same weekend, one slot. It hurts my heart. One slot over Prey. But Bullet Train is like, we've seen the story a million times. It just felt fresh. And it was never boring. Great fight choreography, interesting characters. Just fun as fuck. At 4, I got Nope. I mean, Jordan Peele's 3 for 3. All his movies are completely different. And this wasn't as good as Get Out or Us, but it was not bad. At 3, I got Hustle, the Adam Sandler basketball movie on Netflix.
That summer?
That was June.
Shit. Well, that's somewhere in my top 5. Let's call that number 5. I also loved Hustle.
Yeah, Adam Sandler not doing comedies is always money. 2, Top Gun Maverick. 1, Lightyear, for all the reasons that y'all said. For what feels like a midsummer, there was a lot of gems in there.
It was, yeah, like looking back, like, I don't know. I maybe need to, because I remember like 2017, I remember coming out of that summer feeling like, man, weak summer. And now I look at that, and I was like, there were so many fucking great movies that year that I'm like, how did I think that was a weak summer? So it's like, maybe like next year I'll look back on this and be like, man.
Summer 2022, baby.
Top Gun and Lightyear and all this.
I got to check out Hustle. I haven't seen Hustle yet.
Man.
But I gotta go check it. I know it's on Netflix. The funny thing is, it's like you get all the stuff. Before it was just strictly movies. You know, go to movie theaters, check out the movies. Now you got streaming. You got either Hulu or Amazon Prime or even Netflix, and then you got stuff coming to theaters. Like you only have so much time in a day. So it's like I know I got to catch up on some stuff that I bought and purchased, but yet there's other movies like you said, Hustle. I have to check that out. You know what I mean? I haven't even had a chance to check that out.
TV shows and like that. Like I can usually space out time for like movies if I know in advance that they're coming out. Like, oh, Hustle is coming to Netflix, yada yada. I'll put it on my thing and like watch it that weekend. Like shows, I don't know. Like unless it's something like super duper important. But if it's like something like I'm trying to watch that show, The Patient, with Steve Carell, and I'm like, I want to watch it. Why wouldn't I? Like, it looks great. I like the people in it, but like when am I ever going to get to that? Yeah. I don't know. No clue.
Yeah.
The movies, I try to stay on top.
Movies.
I do okay. The movies. I do okay.
Yeah. So, Rocket, this episode is your baby.
Yep.
Look, I'm going to put it out there. I'm the most inexperienced with Lord of the Rings. Show came out. I watched the 2 episodes. I kind of need to watch them again.
Yeah.
But I did the research, and I've seen both trilogies a couple times over, but I'm not the one that's going to steer this conversation.
Get that.
I throw the captain's chair to Minnesota.
All right, so we all know, Rings of Power dropped this past weekend. Wanted to see how the trilogies, how they will all tie in now. Remember, this is a prequel to even The Hobbit. So all this takes place prior to The Hobbit, and depending on you talk to, probably could be the best trilogy ever or somewhere up there for sure, depending on who you talk to. I know some people take this over trilogies of Star Wars and all that, but at the end of the day is how we're gonna see how those movies are gonna play into what's coming out now with the Rings of Power and how that all ties in.
Nick kind of made that face like, my shoes. I got baby goo on my shoes.
These shoes.
So when it comes to Lord of the, so let me throw this to you, Randy, since I know you've seen both trilogies here and there, not a bunch of times. How do you think, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, how it's all going to tie into this new series, The Rings of Power?
You gonna make me say something stupid?
Hey man, there's nothing dumb.
I assume that this series would end with like the creation of the One Ring, right?
That's where I'm guessing.
Oh, where I'm guessing. Not stupid. The one thing that I wanted to throw out there that I'm gonna say before I forget is like when Nick started Fellowship, he like said that they was like impossible to rank. Like the Lord of the Rings trilogy is impossible to rank, and I have them Fellowship, Two Towers, Return of the King. They're all 5s and they're all brilliant. Like Peter Jackson like outdid himself. You know what I'm saying? That's why like everybody like shits on The Hobbit in comparison, and those are still good.
I did the ranking anyway, like against my. I was like, well, fuck. And it's like, it really isn't, like, I had to do it, like, it wasn't a matter of quality. Like, oh, this is absolutely, I think I did Return of the King, Fellowship, Two Towers. And I'm like, Fellowship is not a better movie than The Two Towers.
No.
Almost like at all. Like, to me, like, Two Towers could be the best of the 3. I gave Fellowship, like, I was like, if I have to give it an edge, it's just that it's the first one, and it introduces all the people to the uninitiated. Like, I was 11, maybe 12 when I saw it. So, like, I hadn't read the books. I didn't really know any of the stuff. I sort of vaguely remembered the animated movie that everyone has forgotten. But, like, I didn't really know the lore, and Fellowship introduced all of that, like, really well. And, like, it introduced the characters and who they were and what they were. So I was like, if I have to give it an edge, that's it. Like, Two Towers didn't have to do that as much.
What was it?
But it's impossible to rank, really.
What was it, buddy, on Twitter that y'all put in the group chat talking about he tried Fellowship and couldn't get into it, bro? Like meeting.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Meeting all these characters and getting into this world is one of the most fun parts of this franchise.
So good because it starts. It. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but it's
tangent away.
I've seen it.
Let it out, man.
One of the best things about those three movies is like it wasn't just about the scale. It wasn't just look how big this is. Look at our CGI and all of our achievements that we've made in CGI. It was the scale was recognized in the story. It starts out tiny. You see the hobbits in the Shire, and it's so tiny. And the idea of them going on this, I think the Hobbit movies do this pretty well too. I think they're kind of underrated, but it's so small, and the idea of them going on this massive journey is unthought. It's like this. That's insane. And by the time you start the movie, and they're in the little shack. And by the end of Fellowship, they're going to the elf world. I'm not good with all the names. But they're, and you see the two big-ass statues, and they're in the little boat, and it's like, even so, it's like 20 years later, and it's still like, holy shit. And then Two Towers, there's the part towards the end when they're having like the big battle, and then Sam and Frodo are over here, and Sam gives his little speech about like why are we even here? It's like, what are we even doing here? And that, I don't even know where I'm going with this. I'm just talking. But like that is like one of the best. Every time I watch it, I'm like, they really recognize like attention to detail in the movies like that. Like they really recognize that it wasn't just like a big deal to have all the CGI, but it was like, it felt like lived in, like you were in the world.
And see, that to me, it's not really a slight. It's not really a knock. It's not really a diss. But one of the first things I noticed about the show was like, damn, like Amazon wasn't bullshitting and really put that $1 billion into the budget.
Yeah. But name one character that isn't like Galadriel or I think dude is Elrond.
Elrond.
Like, name that other elf dude.
One of the dudes is an actor from Ray Donovan. That's all I got.
Yeah. Name him. That's my other. The show's okay so far.
He was the dude that got snatched into like the trees or whatever in the trailers. He played like a boxer in like season 4 of Ray Donovan.
Yeah. Well, what's his name? That's my only thing. I'm like, it's okay so far. I thought the second episode was better than the first episode, but it's more about like, look what we did. We did Tolkien again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but what's the dwarf's name?
So Amazon owns MGM, right?
I guess.
Yeah, because they're trying to do the James Bond stuff.
And,
so yeah, I think they do.
And like either Warner, New Line, and MGM like at least co-finance the Hobbit trilogy, right?
Yeah.
So they always had the rights. Like Warner Brothers isn't getting any cut of this.
That's the thing. Like, I don't think this is part of the movie lore. Like, I don't think it's like a prequel to the movies. I think it's just like another one. Like,
I mean, yeah, it's probably like an unofficial, but everybody's gonna treat it like it is.
Well, that's the thing.
Like the movies just to get myself hyped, and it didn't really work.
It's funny because like you also got to remember too, when they did Lord of the Rings, it was like the third era. You already know the battle happened, and that opening scene kills it when they're explaining how it all happened. So that boom, that snatches you right into the movie. So there was already history made when Lord of the Rings. This is now the third era. You already know what's going on. What helped The Hobbit, which I agree with Nick, that I know people shit on them and bash them, but I think they're underrated. Yeah, I mean, come on. You had a trilogy. Yeah, you had a trilogy in Lord of the Rings where each one of those was nominated for Best Picture and could have won. I mean,
yeah.
The only other trilogy that I know is like that was The Godfather. You know what I mean? So it's like that's pretty up there. And yes, the Return of the King finally did break through and win it, but each one of those could have won. So my thing is this:
better than show.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does that. Like, what even won in 2001?
I don't even remember.
Fuck A Beautiful Mind.
I'm about to say A Beautiful Mind or some shit.
Yeah, fuck Gladiator was pretty good, but like A Beautiful Mind, like I'd rather watch Lord of the Rings. That's
exactly.
Yo.
Exactly. So with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, you already had that history. What helped the Hobbit out, I think, is this is what happened prior to the Lord of the Rings, so that helped it out a little bit. This Ring of Power, like this TV show, from what I'm reading, is it's trying to be part of canon, and they're saying it is part of canon. But remember, Galadriel is super young.
That's what I'm thinking with the MGM behind it and behind the Hobbit. Like, it is canon.
It is canon. And then you got Elrond, who's super young, and I like who's playing Elrond. He played Ned Stark, the young version of Ned Stark in Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay.
So basically, what's going on? So what's going on is like this is the beginning of them getting to that point. So it's like, if you start a movie of your life at the age of say 30, well, you got 29 other years that happened before it that lead up. So at one point in your life, it's going to be slow to get to that point. So I think that's where people just have to be patient with this TV series, because eventually we know where it ends, but how does it get there? That's what I'm more intrigued about.
And Buddy's name is Aaron Deere.
See, that's the thing is all these new, besides, Galadriel and Elrond, those are the two main characters. Like, looks like they're basing the show around. But all these other characters, I have no clue about.
And that's, kind of brings you to the point. Well, again, I say I have not read the books. I'm sorry. Like, I never took the time to actually sit by a tree and read The Lord of the Rings. Like, I never did.
What are books?
Are these characters that were like a genuine question? Like, are they made up for the show? Did they exist in something else? I don't know. And like, that's what I want to tiptoe around, because like if you say something on Twitter, Lord of the Rings nerds will like cook you. Like they will be like, you do realize that the third age of Middle Earth was not. And I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. Sauron had not established his reign. I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought Sauron was on the show. But like,
bro, fuck Twitter.
Twitter's it's scary. It's a scary place to be.
Bro, fuck Twitter.
You do realize that Aragorn the king is not the king. I'll be like, I thought I knew that.
That's the meme. That's the you like oranges meme. Oh wait, so you don't like plums or tangerines or da da da.
It's crazy too, because, like I said, I'm Nick. I've never read the books, and I remember watching vaguely the animated Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. What got me into it is when I saw the theatrical version. Okay, great. When I bought the unedited, like the full cut, that's what got me, because it explains it so much better. But I'm like you. It's like, I don't know. I know that lore, but I don't know the lore that happened prior to. And I guess, like, everybody talks about that, the beginning. What's the book? The Silmarillion or something like that, I think. Yeah. And that book is, it's super thick that they're saying there's no way you can make a movie adaptation. It might work as a TV show. And it's like, supposedly in the first 2 episodes of this, if I heard it correctly, or I saw something or read it right, that it was mentioned to a point. I'm like, it was? Because I don't know the lore of it. So it's like, I understand what you're saying. It's like, you're trying to tiptoe, because I'm the same way. It's like, I know what I know about The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. And even this is kind of new to me, this new show. So, like, the lore from this point and earlier, I have no clue about.
That's what I was like. I'll shit on the new Game of Thrones show all day. Like, I've watched the 2 episodes. It's kind of boring to me. Like, I'm not that into it. I'll probably watch the 3rd episode, but if I can't get into it, if I fall off, I fall off. Like, Lord of the Rings, like, if I'm not into it, I'm, like, double thinking. I'm like, am I just a stupid piece of shit? Like, I don't want to, like, get on Twitter and be like, yawn. To be like, you idiot! You didn't even read the Silmarillion. I'll be like, no, I didn't. I'm sorry. You fool. But like, I'm kind of in it. Like, it was cool enough. Even still, like, if I can't 100% follow the story, I'm kind of into it. Like, I was like, oh, they're dwarves. They're elves. I know them.
Nick, I know that feeling, Nick. There's times I watch a show and I'm like, I understand it, but do I understand? And I'll even go like low key on YouTube and look up ending of this show, and I'm like, okay, so I did understand that. I just thought I was dumb. You know what I mean? Like, it just it doesn't, like, I'm like, okay, is it me or?
That's what I did with this last season. Not to get off track of Only Murders in the Building. Not to say that it was bad or dumb in any way, but there was something that happened. Randy knows what I'm talking about. Like, something that was like a reveal. And I was like, did I miss something, or was it just kind of undercooked? And so I went back and just rewatched the whole thing. I was like, I got like 3 days. I'll just rewatch the whole thing again. And like, it turns out like I was paying attention.
Yeah.
I wasn't like floored by the reveal.
They tried to just outsmart themselves with the writing in season 2.
Yeah.
It was good. It just wasn't as good as season 1.
Yeah, it was. That was it. It's like, it just was not as good as season. Like, maybe Lord of the Rings will be that. Like, I'll go back and be like, wait. But I don't know, because like right now it's like I couldn't even tell you really like the plot. There's a lot of things going. Yeah. I couldn't tell you what it's about.
I'm just waiting on Gandalf.
Is that Gandalf? I don't. It's some guy.
Okay, so
I was trying to be funny. I didn't know he might be in the show.
No, there's a guy there, and people were like, it's Gandalf.
Yeah, I thought it was the same thing. I thought that meteor that crashed, that they revealed that guy. I thought that was him. That's what I thought. But they got him listed as on IMDb as the Stranger. So I'm like, okay, so it's not Gandalf? So that's the thing. So it's like, okay, I'm just gonna like clear my mind and just watch the show.
Yo, like, I'm gonna be like the normie for a bit. Associate characters in this show with actors in the trilogies. Like, is Hugo Weaving in it? Is Christopher Lee in it? Is, you know what I'm
saying? Yeah. The only one that's in it is Hugo Weaving, which is his character Elrond.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And Cate Blanchett, whose character is Galadriel.
I just wanted to say Cate Blanchett, but I wasn't positive. It's been like 2 years since I watched them.
Cate Blanchett, that's one of the best castings ever. Like, they're like,
ever.
She's the fairest maiden in the land, and it's like, who should play her? Yeah, Cate Blanchett in 2001. It was like, wow. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is this though too is her character in this TV show. Like, we see her as who she is through like the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings trilogy. I didn't even know she was like a badass warrior. She's like badass in this show. I didn't know that.
Like, that's another thing. It's like, is she? Is this in the book? Like, was this character? I had no idea. And then it's like, you get on Twitter. If I were to be like, just out of curiosity, I was just like, is Galadriel have a history of being like a badass? Like, where? Yeah, you'll get somebody be like, no, it's just another woke fucking TV show that woke. I'm like,
oh, bro. Not to get off track. I don't know why I'm going to say this on wax. Y'all know I post the new releases, right? Like, the beginning of August was like really fat. It was Prey, Bullet Train, all that shit that came out. And what are y'all watching? And I got a comment yesterday on a month-old post that said Prey, because it's not woke. Like, dude, go fuck yourself.
It is. Like, by their definitions of what that means, it totally is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, you don't even know what you're talking about. Yeah. It's not. Like, it's just a movie.
Right, like, bro, society, white people, listen to me. Putting a female in a badass position in a movie or a show or whatever the fuck does not mean it's woke. Women can whoop ass too.
Bro, imagine if Alien or Aliens came out now. Oh my god.
Oh woke. They're checking the boxes. Bro, like, is Tomb Raider woke?
I'm like, she's not a Mary Sue. She like got in the thing and shot it, said, "Stay away from her, you bitch." Like, that's not whatever. Mary Sue. I'm like, Galadriel, she's like a magical elf woman or whatever the fuck she is. Like, it's not like she's not getting these powers or whatever out of nowhere. And it's like, and that's how I don't know. There's just people operate on another level, like not to
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Like when I saw the promo images for this or whatever, it showed the dude. I guess he's like an elf. He's got pointy ears. I don't remember his name, but he's like the elf dude wearing the armor, and he's like at the house talking to the people. Showed his picture, and it looked kind of goofy. And I think it was really just because he had like short hair and like the pointy ears, and he was wearing armor or whatever. And I was just kind of like, what an odd looking character. So I don't know who that is. That's all I thought. Didn't think anything of it. And then there was all this hatred. It was like, black elves? What? And I'm just like, I was like, that's not why it looks goofy at all to me.
This is the guy from Ray Donovan.
He just looks like he's got pointy ears. I'm wondering, what's his deal? Like, that's how it's like my brain is on a different wavelength than,
really?
I don't know. Like, I'm
You're
just
logical.
Like, he looks funny.
There was something that flipped in society where if it wasn't white and male, it wasn't acceptable to the normies. It's ridiculous.
And that's another, like I was saying, like, even though, like, it's bullshit, it's like, okay, maybe you're, like, a Tolkien purist. Maybe you read these books, and, like, it's like, okay, like, when you think of the Hobbits, it's, like, rooted in, like, Irish culture and all that stuff. You're probably picturing a little white dude with furry feet. It's like, okay, fine. They made the movies 20 years ago, and that's like what the dwarves, you're probably picturing a white little Scottish guy with a long beard.
But there's no law.
But I'm like, 20 plus years later, like I said, are these made up characters completely? Like, how are we mad? It's like, it's like this character was written to be this way, so you're wrong. Like, there can't be black elves. It's like, well, this guy is. So,
bro, like, if they remade Lord of the Rings theatrically now, and like Idris Elba was the Viggo Mortensen character, and like John Boyega was Elijah Wood character, I'd roll with it. That's dope casting.
It would be just Idris Elba as Eric. It would be just as good. Yeah. There's somebody that will listen to this and be like, "Wow, whoa, I'm not listening to this anymore." Wow, hey, it's like,
fuck
in
you,
what
dog.
way would that change his arc? Would that change his
viewer,
character?
Listener? As the Dr. Frankenstein of the Rec League podcast, if you don't like my casting choices because they are female or minority, go fuck yourself. Go listen to somebody else. Please.
Are you Frankenstein's monster?
I might be. I hit you with that Damian Lillard. Bye-bye.
Well, from what I heard is, like I said, I haven't read the books either, and I think maybe this winter I'll go to Barnes & Noble and pick them up and do some reading during the winter, but from what I know is when it came to the dwarves in Lord of the Rings, they had a hard time writing that script because in the books, the dwarves never spoke. They were just described. So it would be like, whatever,
Gimli?
Yeah, like Gimli, like say, like Gimli, he was described, he would speak and all that, but this is what I've heard. Is that true? No idea. Like I said, I've never read them. So this is what I've heard. But they describe how they are and certain, and that lineage. But at the end of the day is, who knows who came up with that information or what they heard and now put it, like, I want to read it for myself to see. And with me, I'd rather see a movie and then read the book. Because I don't want to be like these people, like, oh, I read the book, the movie sucked. No. I'm a movie first person because, like with the Harry Potter movies, I don't know if you guys seen them. I've read some of the books after I've seen the movie, and I'm like, oh, they cut this out, but that would have been cool to put in. I'm not upset. Like, there's people that read books, they're like, if this is not in it, this movie's terrible, and now you're hinging your whole hopes on this one part of the book. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that.
I did that with Harry Potter too. Like, I tried to read the first Harry Potter book, like when it was real, like first, like blowing up, and I didn't get it. Like, I was just the writing style, and I didn't get it. Like, I'm not understanding what's happening. It's so British, like the way they talk, like the way it's written. Like, they were perfectly normal, thank you very much, and yada yada yada. I was just, I'm like 10, like I don't understand what I'm reading. Then I saw the movie, loved the movie, and then that's when I like went back with
Yep.
the movie in my head. I was like, okay, that's
Exactly.
the basis for like what I'm reading now. And
Yes.
so then, like, yeah, when they left stuff out, and I didn't read all the books, but it was like when they left stuff out, it was like, okay, that's not like I'll live without
Exactly.
like more stuff about Ron like kissing his girlfriend. It's like, oh no, they took out like half of that from the. Oh no, it's like it was fine.
I kind of did that with it. I had seen the miniseries, but before the 2 movies, I like audio booked them. And yeah, there was shit they left out. It didn't fuck me up or nothing.
About like the massive orgy.
Yeah.
Damn.
Hey, Stephen King was so gone when he wrote it. Stephen King was on some shit.
People were like, why did they leave that out? And I was like, I can think of like at least 3 reasons.
Bitch, because they're 13?
Yeah, I can think of a few reasons.
Because no parent is going to let their kid film that?
Yeah, maybe one day we'll get it.
Carrie Fukunaga wanted to do it.
What?
Carrie Fukunaga wanted to film that scene. And like either the parents and or Warner Brothers was just like, no chance.
Nope.
And then Andy Muschietti was like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah. It's like I can't even put that in that movie like in context with everything else that happens in the movie. I can't imagine all those kids just being like, woo, now what? Like that's like, well,
gangbang. Fucking
for 3 hours they went at it.
Richie just pulls the Todd Phillips from Old School. I'm here for the gangbang.
Oh my gosh.
So, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So where's
Off the rails.
where's Smeagol?
That's a good question. You know what I mean? Like I said, you know,
What
this
if
is
what if he's the stranger?
that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. You know what I mean? And that's the thing is I was trying to do research on like the Rings of Power,
The
but like
Hobbits is
besides the like what do they call the Berryfoot? What's it the other small hobbits, the Berryfoots or whatever they are?
yeah. Them,
Right
them
now-
little kids was going nuts over them berries.
Yeah, they technically those are not considered hobbits yet. They're not considered hobbits.
I definitely
So I'm
need to
like, okay.
rewatch this shit.
Yeah, that's like they're not considered hobbits. So what? Well, they're slightly taller than hobbits. That
Cool.
they're not considered.
Couple centimeters.
It's just yeah.
So they're
like,
dwarves. No.
Yeah,
Munchkins.
and that's the thing. It's
Between the dwarf and the hobbit.
it's a whole new lore now. You know what I mean? You had the lore for the Lord of the Rings. You added more lore to the Hobbit, but at least that's connected.
Yeah.
Everything here, like you said, Randy, you know, does this lead to find that ring? But it's called the Rings of Power. So I'm guessing this is where maybe they come up with all 8 of the rings.
I was about to
and
say, is there
the
more than
that
one
rules them
ring?
all. Yeah, because remember,
Yeah.
each culture got one. Like the dwarves got one,
Yo,
the elves got a. You know what I mean? So it's like,
this is kind of Lord of the Rings related, but in Clerks 3, is there going to be another debate over another trilogy?
I always think of that now that he's like, it's just walking. Even the fucking trees walked in this movie. I always think of now when I watch them, I'm like, oh shit.
but
But maybe. That's
yeah,
one of the arguments though, because it's like, it could be the best trilogy of all time. It's like Rocket said, like, it might be. It really might be. But it's like, if you're a Star Wars fanatic,
yeah,
Absolutely
you're
not.
never going to admit it. Like, that's
No.
me. I'm like, The Return of the King is probably a better closing chapter than Return of the King.
Yeah.
But, like, fuck you. Like, I'm never going to, like, say that. Like, to hell with you. Like, I'm never going to admit that. Like, no.
No.
It's
I would say A New Hope, Empire over Fellowship, Two Towers, and then, yeah, Return of the King over Return of the Jedi.
Like, no.
yep.
No way. But also, like, yeah, probably. But it's like, I don't know. Star Wars is too pure to me. It's like
Yes.
rated. I'm like, no, I would give them 8 out of 10. Like, no, that's fine. It's like, I feel like I could rate Lord of the Rings movies. Like, I wouldn't call them perfect 5s, but, like, they're pretty close to perfect 5s. And all 3, I give 4.5 paths. It's not like I'm like, oh, this is definitely. I would put like Return of the King first, probably, just because it pretty much does everything right. I would even go as far as to say, I've said it before, like the extended editions of Lord of the Rings.
Keep
I
going.
don't
I'll be back.
necessarily prefer them. Oh no,
Keep going.
he pulled a SpongeBob. I don't necessarily prefer them to the theatrical versions. They're arguably better, and I think it's like more movie, and that's like, some people prefer to just watch more movie, and I'm like, well, I get that. But it's like even like Return of the King, like when I watched the extended version, like I don't think it's better than the theatrical version. It's just like added stuff. I felt like by the time they got to Return of the King, they were just like, we made pretty much a perfect movie.
Yeah.
I would just have to add this weird Saruman dying scene to it. Like we have to add different things. But like, that's my hottest take about Lord of the Rings, I think, because most people are like, live or die by the extended versions.
And that's the thing, is like, I like both versions. What I like about the extended version is it makes a little bit more sense. Like at the end of, Fellowship, you get, Samwise, he has the rope.
Yeah.
Because it explains it in the extended version, but yet when it comes to, the two towers, he just pulls a rope out of nowhere. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
how did you get this rope? You know what I mean?
It's like, I put like the Fellowship extended edition in particular is probably my favorite of the three. Like you said, it's a little more, it gives it a little more space, even though it was already like 3 hours long. We look at Return of the King, like it's super long. The first two movies were both like 3 hours.
It was mad, yeah.
But like, I don't know. There's like little things. Like I think it's the Two Towers where he's like, "What do we have to eat? Oh, Lambert's bread. More Lambert's bread."
Lambert's bread,
and
yeah.
then, like, I think it's Fellowship. They added the scene where it's like Legolas is explaining the bread. Like he's like, one bite is enough to fill the stomachs of 10 men, and he's like, Merry and Pippin is like, "How much did you eat?" He's like, "I ate 4." And like,
yeah.
Like it's cute, but I'm like, did I know that Lambert's bread? Because every time you see him eating, Sam and Frodo are just eating it. It's like they're starving. And I'm like, you got a lot of that bread. You look like you should be fine. You got like
exactly.
Bread.
The Nick impression is so underrated.
No, but like, but also I think why Lord of the Rings is pretty much perfect. Like Nick said, it's 20 years. Let's go back to Helm's, the Two Towers, that Battle of Helm's Deep. I mean, if you watch the special features of Lord of the Rings, they did that on models. They did little models up to scale. But when you watch it, there's not one part that you're like, okay, that's CG. No, you can't say, well, that was CG. It looks so real.
A lot of model work and a lot of like matte painting backgrounds.
Yeah.
That's why that stuff looks so crazy. You're like, wow, how did they do it? It's like they didn't. It's like they commissioned some guy to paint like this beautiful mural and just like put it, and it looks great. It's like amazing.
When did they start filming Fellowship? Like 99?
99, yeah.
In my head, it's before that. In my head, they were working on Lord of the Rings in like the mid 90s. I'm like,
I almost wanted to say 97
to like figure out what they're doing, like. And it's enough to be like, well, that's why they gave it the Oscars, because look, it's a massive achievement. And it's like, yeah. But when you watch it, it is also like you said, the best movies ever. Like you're like, holy shit, that was the best picture of 2003. That was better than Mystic River and Cold Mountain and Seabiscuit. It was paranormal.
And if you think about it too, at that time when those movies came out, one came out. They came out every December for 3 years. They came out, and you couldn't wait to watch it. But also, you were so immersed, like it felt like this really happened in our history, like back then. Like I know it's fantasy and it's all made up, but it's like your mindset. That's exactly. It's like your mindset is like this
If
happened.
it's
You know,
if
that's
it's
how
that
they
good, yeah.
presented it.
Like Lord of the
They
Rings,
presented
Game of
it that.
Thrones, like feel believable.
Yep.
This is the story of Aragorn the King, and it's like,
Yep.
no, it's not. It's like, yes, it is. It's like, why do I pray to his picture every night before I go to sleep? It's like, I don't know, because you're wicked. Yeah, I remember feeling like, 'cause I was young. Like I said, like the first one came out in 2001, so I was like 11. Not really get like, and plus, I was a child, so you're not sitting and reading the news. It's all very different. But it was like the Lord of the Rings. I just remember being like, oh, cool. Not really realizing that it was like a real big deal to have a cinematic version of the Lord of the Rings. So it was like, oh, cool. That looks good. I'll watch that one day. Like, it was just kind of like, cool. And then by the time Return of the King comes out, I'm 13, I'm older, I'm way into it, feeling like it was like fever pitch. Like everyone in the world was like going to see Return of the King. I didn't see it, any of them in the theater. Fun fact about me. I couldn't get anyone to go. I was a child. My parents didn't give a shit about it. But like, it felt like everyone in the world was like ready for Return of the King. And I was sitting at home. Like, I just remember being like, it was like Christmas time. And I was like, I want to go. I just want to walk to the theater and go. And like, I didn't. But yeah, have it like one after the other. It's like boom, boom, boom. And by the time you get to the third one, it made $1 billion. And it was like the biggest movie ever. And they got progressively better, arguably. Like, maybe not. It was like, not like you saw the Two Towers, like, that was the middle chapter. Like, Two Towers doesn't fall prey to that, like, at all. Like, it ends with the Helm's Deep battle, which is like maybe the best battle sequence across all three movies. Like, probably. There's like the big stuff in Return of the King, but it's more like a bunch of things coming together. But like, Helm's Deep is like an honest to God, like, good guys, bad guys, like coming together to fight. And like, yeah, it was like Empire Strikes Back levels. Like, wow, holy shit, that was great. I can't wait for the third one. But I had to wait for the third one. I had to go buy the DVD at Kroger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's crazy.
And I went home and watched it in my like little bedroom. Like, I think about that now. I'm like, fuck, man. I watched it like on my little TV in my bedroom. Like, wow. Whoa.
Full screen. Was the DVD full screen or widescreen?
I had them on full screen.
Yeah.
I had an analog. I had one of those square shits. So I was like, man, why the fuck widescreen?
Well, the funny thing about it too is like, I remember when when Return of the King came out on physical media, I already had the two, extended editions, and I was like, do I wait for the extended edition? I was like, nah, I gotta buy it now. I'll get it when it comes out. So I ended up buying it twice.
It's one of the few things where they like, not everything where they get like a different edition. It's like worth double dipping, but it was like the Lord of the Rings. One of the few things that was like, no, I need it now. I remember I didn't own them. I rented the first one. I rented the first movie twice. My mom, and she might have rented it on like VHS, I'll be honest, but like, I think it was because she didn't want to watch it. And it was like, we had a VCR in like our living room. So it was like, me and my dad were just going to like put it in. My dad didn't give a shit about it. Like, he was just like, and so I was like kind of into it, but then like didn't finish it or something like that. And I was like, wow, my parents didn't care. I guess I don't care either. But then it was like the Two Towers coming out. So I rented it again, watched it, thought it was great, watched it by myself, thought it was great. Rented the Two Towers when it came out, watched it by myself, thought it was great. And by that Christmas, both movies had extended editions. And I remember making a list. It's like, what do I want for Christmas? And on my list, I wrote Lord of the Rings, like 4-disc edition or something like that. And my mother, God, like, bless her soul, went on Amazon or whatever and got me, it was the 2-pack of the theatrical editions. Both 2-disc DVDs, but the thing on the out, I opened it and I was like, oh, cool. And the thing on the outside said 4-disc collection. I was like,
she followed directions.
Bless her heart.
That's what you asked for.
Exactly what I asked for. But dude, fuck it, whatever. So I owned the theatrical versions for like years before I even saw the extended version, which may be why I kind of hold them a little more, because I watched them all the time. And by the time I saw the extendeds, I could pick out every single extended scene, and I was like, this isn't my theatrical version. But then, yeah, I ended up buying them anyway, and then getting them on regular Blu-ray, and then extended Blu-ray, and now I have them on 4K, and I'll probably have them on whatever the next thing is.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is.
I read an article at one point. Well, they were shopping it around, and they wanted to make it just a 2-movie, just a part 1 and part 2, and they finally, nobody wanted to take it, and then when they went to who was it? It was I'm going blank here, because I think it was like Wingnut Productions, which was I think Peter Jackson's company.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And it was a Screen Gems. Is it Screen Gems? I can't even remember what it was, but when they read the script, they're like, "What's wrong with you? Why do you this isn't going to work?" And they were taken aback, thinking, "Oh no." They're like, "There should be 3 films." So that they signed them for the 3 films. But the funny thing is, this is in Fellowship of the Ring. I read that the part when they meet in Lothlorien, where the elves live and all that, with Elrond and everything, when everybody commits to be part of that fellowship, at one point they were thinking of ending that movie right there. Makes sense. The Fellowship of the Ring ends right there. Even in the theatrical cut, if you think about it, you're only halfway through the movie.
That's when the extended version cuts off, like right at that
right
point.
There. Yeah.
Where Flippin's like, "Cool, where are we going?" And then it shuts
and that's
off.
it.
The VHS, you have to change your VHS tape. Like that's like the middle part of it. And then the second half is longer.
Yeah,
It pissed me off.
Yeah.
And it pissed me. I was like, all right. Halfway through it, it was like 2 in the morning. I was like, all right. Halfway through it, it was like, you got 2 more hours to go. Like,
Yeah,
no.
But one thing about the Lord of the Rings trilogy too is like, which I hope whenever it does get to that point with the Rings of Power series, is that every battle scene was intense.
Yeah.
And you were in it. You were in it like you were there.
Yeah, it wasn't just like mindless battles either. I'll even say that about the Hobbit movies, because there weren't a lot of battle scenes in the Hobbit movies. So when you got to one, it was like a big deal. But that's like Lord of the Rings. Like, I'm not great with all the like names of the places and so. I'm sorry, like I'm just not. But it's like they go here, and then there's a battle here. So it's like they do the Mines of Moria. They do like the outside battle with the, what are they called, the Uruk-hai or whatever.
Yep.
They killed Boromir. Spoiler alert, 20-year-old spoiler alert. And then that's like it. That's like really it for that movie. It's like it's not a movie that's like chock full of like nonstop battle sequences. And the Two Towers, there's really just like that one.
Yeah, which is a big one, massive one.
And it's like the best. It's so good, like I could die. Like everything about it is good.
And like you said, Nick, too, is like, I can see why you have the love for the theatrical over the extended editions. But what I do like about the extended editions is like in Two Towers, like Sean Bean Boromir, he died, spoiler alert, in Fellowship of the Ring. But because of the extended cut in Two Towers, they bring him back in a flashback and it explains, which I love.
I don't like that flash. I decided on this rewatch that I don't love that flashback. For the sober, like I get it. Like I get why you like it. I get why somebody else would like it, because it is more and it goes deeper into the character. But you get to Return of the King, and what's their dad's name? I don't remember his name.
Me neither.
But their dad hates Faramir, loves Boromir.
Yep.
Stupid names, the both of them. But he hates Boromir, loves Boromir. And it's kind of implied in the third one, like when you watch the theatrical version, at least for me, not knowing shit about anything, watching it, it was always just kind of like he was like enthralled by grief. Like the dad came off more like not so much like, oh, he's a dickhead. It was like he was overcome with just grief and anger at life, and it made it more complicated. It was like, it's not that he hates his son Faramir. It's misplaced. It's just aggression, anger, and Gandalf, like, Faramir's like leaving, and he's like, think more of me, father, and he's leaving, and Gandalf's like, your father loves you, and he'll remember at the end, and then he thinks he's dead, and his father comes back, and he is like sad and all that, yada yada yada. It's this multi-layered thing, and you watch it, and it's like, wow, man, what a crazy story. So then Two Towers, it just shows this flashback, and he's just shitting on Faramir for like no reason. Like, yeah, it's Faramir and Boromir just won this like battle, and his dad's like, he's like, father, we won. And he's like, what the fucking do? Like, I hate you. Boromir's the man. This is my son, and this is my mistake. And I'm like, why does he hate him so? Like, why now? Like, why does he hate him so much? And it's just kind of like, because it's extended. It's like, well, why does he hate him there? Like, he didn't do anything bad. It's just like, one day you'll know I fucking hate you so much. Come on, Boromir, let's go eat, or whatever. Like, whatever he says. And he's just like, fuck, I guess I'm going to go try to prove myself to my father. And he does. And then it's like, that's where we pick up with him in the Two Towers.
True.
And it's like, well, true. Why do you hate him so much? Like, he doesn't do anything. He's just a guy. Whereas Return of the King, you hadn't even met his father yet. And it was like a whole day, like, oh, it's like this complicated thing where Boromir was clearly the favorite, and Faramir knows that, and he's trying to do it. It's, I don't know. Not to say it's worse, but like watching it, this other day, I'd like forgotten that. Like watching it, I was like, you know, I like it better than the other way.
All right, well, let's put a pin in it. All right, so I'm kind of just spectating, but I noticed that you guys have been ignoring the Hobbit trilogy. What's up?
I like the Hobbit trilogy. That's another trilogy of movies that I think, it's arguable, I think they get progressively better.
Yeah.
But some people disagree. I think the first Hobbit was like fine. It's too long. If one of the 6 movies is too long, it's the first Hobbit movie.
I agree with that. The second
one's better, and then the third one kicks ass to me, and it's got a negative tomato.
Yeah, that's the one. Do we need 3 movies? Does the second book need to be split into 3 movies?
They were going to do it as 2 movies. I remember
they were.
It was going to be called An Unexpected Journey and There and Back Again.
Yeah.
And it was going to be 2 movies. Then they added the 3rd movie and then changed the name of the 3rd movie to The Battle of the 5 Armies. I remember reading that and been like, he was like, just this title is so much better. And I was like, but you stayed with the Desolation of Smaug? You thought that was a good title for a film, released in theaters?
Well,
other than that,
Thorin's a badass.
He's one of the most like naturally badass characters across all 6 movies. Like, it doesn't even come across like he's trying to be badass. Like, even Aragorn has a couple scenes where they're like, put this in slow motion. Like, have him walk through the door in slow motion so it looks way cooler. It's like, Thorin doesn't have much of that at all. Like, he's just kind of there. Even when he's like being a dickhead, it's like, well, he's allowed. We'll give him this because he's like our badass king that we follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with the Hobbit though is like, I think they are underrated because, Lord of the Rings trilogy, like I said, way up there, and then you have the Hobbit movies, which were good. They were good, but because Lord of the Rings already set that bar, you're expecting the same thing out of these.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's almost that's almost impossible to repeat. I mean, he repeated it like he did Fellowship, Two Towers, Return of the King. That's 3 awesome movies, and like we were saying, each one seemed like he got better and better. To repeat that again, that's pretty tough.
Yeah,
that's
like
pretty tough.
I even just like knowing what you know about like the Hobbit book. I remember there being a Hobbit video game. Nobody seems to remember. Like, I remember that game, and just knowing what you know, it's like, well, this isn't going to be as epic as Lord of the Rings. It's not even on the same scale. They're considered children's books.
Mm-hmm.
The Hobbit is anyway. It's like it's considered books for children, and it's like, oh well, whatever. This is not going to be on that same massive scale, and it isn't. The first Hobbit, especially, is like they could have probably made them 2 movies if they'd have trimmed a lot of fat out of the first Hobbit movie.
Yeah.
Because it like culminates in just them like doing that little fight in the woods, but it's on a tiny scale, and you feel that, and it still feels though 10 years later that it's still part of the same, where it's not just like the Star Wars prequels, which I will not slander or hate on, but like you watch them 20 years later, it's like they're different movies. It's the same story about the same characters, but all the vastness of the different planets and the different worlds and all the new CGI technology and all that stuff, all the different actors and aliens, it's like, wow, this is like a different thing altogether. Whereas The Hobbit immediately feels like, oh yeah, this is the exact same play, the exact same Middle Earth as the movies. These are the exact same characters. Like Martin Freeman as Bilbo. That's like perfect casting. It's like
it is.
It's the exact same character, Bilbo Baggins. Ian McKellen looked the same.
Yeah.
He didn't look any older or younger. He looked exactly the same, like in all the get up. So it was like
Benedict Cumberbatch definitely looks like a dragon.
Yeah, they were like, who can we get to play? That was actually him. They were just like, we need to just tape some wings on him and let him go.
Yeah.
But that's the only one with the first Hobbit. Like, if they'd have trimmed some of that fat, it takes like 45 minutes for like the dwarves come over and like they eat dinner, they sing. It's like a 45-minute scene. I'm like, you could have cut that down to maybe 15 minutes. Gotten the point across and kept it rolling.
For sure.
I'd still say they're underrated.
Yeah.
I just think with the Hobbit movies, like you have Smaug, you have Azog the Defiler, you know what I mean? It's like there were so many little storylines. I think from what I hear in the books, the story, it's more detailed in the books, and you only have so much time. And like you said, these movies are already long to begin with. What do you add? What do you cut out? What do you know what I mean? Even in the extended cuts, same thing.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, I watched the extended cuts I've seen of The Hobbit like twice now. So I don't even know. I've watched The Hobbits a few times, but I'm not as like.
Same
I don't
same
love
with me.
them on that same level, so it's like I don't even notice like what's extended and what's not extended. Like when I watch them, I'm like, this is The Hobbit. They're doing Hobbit things.
Dude, I think
it's been a minute since I've watched the theatrical versions.
The Hobbit might be the first thing that I recognize Luke Evans in.
Forgot he's in there. Yeah, Luke Evans. Yeah.
Then he popped up in Fast and Furious, Dracula Untold.
Yeah, Dracula. He had to have done something before that.
He did the movie with was it John Cusack, The Raven?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was earlier that same year.
Yeah.
He did the Paul W. Sanderson Three Musketeers, but I didn't see that. And then he had like supporting roles in like Clash of the Titans, Robin Hood.
That's right.
Well, whatever. He's dope in those movies.
Yeah.
Like The Hobbit doesn't get credit for like got all these actors who were like really good in their roles, like Lee Pace, and they weren't like They weren't really like super duper A-listers, but they were like it's like
on their way.
Evangeline Lilly. It was like, oh yeah, she looks like an elf, and she was like sick in that role with like Legolas, which was kind of just fan service.
Yeah,
like he didn't need. I don't think he's in the book. He might be. But he was like, it didn't feel like, oh, shoehorn. It was like, oh, the elves serve a big purpose in this story. It'd be cool to have one that we like do. And he doesn't do anything like he's not. It's not like, Anakin building C-3PO. Like it's like he's not there doing something like, oh shit, this whole thing would never have been able to happen. He's just kind of there doing cool things, fighting orcs and stuff. It's like that's cool.
Yeah.
Like every time I've rewatched The Hobbit since they came out, I've been like, These movies are good. Why do we act like these are bad movies? Like, these are good, especially the third one, which is like nonstop battle of the five armies. So I don't know what the army is.
What's crazy too is that I know we're talking about extended cuts and all that for The Hobbit. At one point, they were talking about, because this isn't an article, that they were trying to get the original cast from Lord of the Rings, like Viggo Mortensen, you know, they brought back Orlando Bloom, but like everybody, to somehow try to bridge The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings together, but it just they couldn't come up with a story to make that work. That's why you have guys like Legolas, like Orlando Bloom coming back, and even Frodo coming back for that opening scene. How they did that.
I remember that for that. Like the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, "These are no bullshit, like honest to God prequels. Like they got home and all of them to come back." Like I was like, "Oh, this isn't just grab like." Because they tried to make it for years, and I was like, "Oh, this is like an honest to God prequel to the movies."
Yeah, so like Elijah Wood came back for that scene. Like I said, Orlando Bloom was Legolas. Ian Holm. Hugo Weaving, Kate Blanchett again. So you brought some of that cast back, but they were truly trying to bring like the original, Fellowship back to somehow bridge it with that, but they just couldn't come up with. Remember, Viggo Mortensen back then, he was, he ages slowly, but yet they would have to bring a younger version of him for that, so it's like, out of all that. Yeah.
But like, that was another thing, like Saruman, Elrond, Galadriel, they all show up to like help Gandalf in the third movie. He's doing something with Sauron, like he sees the eye or whatever. He's like struggling. And they show up, and that's like the most badass thing ever. I'm like, why don't we talk about, like, everybody acts like, oh, the Hobbit sucked. I'm like, no, that was like the Avengers assembling. Like that was like the sixth.
Yeah.
And then it was like no one talked about it. Everybody was like, all right, well, cool. Like, cool? It was really cool. And then they went back and had a battle. I can't figure out who the fifth army is, though. And I remember thinking that at one point as the Battle of the Five Armies. And I was like, okay.
Army of the Dead.
It's like elves, dwarves, people that live in the town, and like the orcs. Whatever they were. I guess they were still orcs. I was like, who's the fifth army? Because you got Thorin and his, like, I don't know, like 10 dwarves.
Gollum.
That's not an army. And then Legolas shows up. I even paused it when I was watching it the other day. I had to go to the bathroom. When I came back, I saw that the title of that chapter was The Fifth Army Arrives. I thought, oh, okay, here we go. This is something I don't remember. And it was like Legolas rolls up, and he's like, I'm here. And he brought some, like, more elves. Like, that's not a fifth army. That's just that's an extension of the army that's already there. And then there were, like, people that were living in the town, was like the women and the children.
Yeah.
They took up swords and shit, and they were like, we have to protect our men. They protect us. We have to protect the men. And they go running. But I'm like, that's just more people in the people army. I'm like, that's still 4 armies. And then I realized, I was like, I'm thinking too much into this probably. But it's called the Battle of the Five Armies. I'm like, where's the fifth? The Eagles show up at the end. Spoiler for anybody that hasn't seen the 8-year-old movie. Eagles show up. That's not an army. It's like 5 eagles.
Gollum is a one-man army.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Gandalf is out there, and he's kind of, him and Bilbo are kind of like neutral. Definitely not an army. Like,
yeah.
I was like, it's not an army. Bilbo doesn't even like really fight. He like falls over, passes out. I don't know. The more I watch them, the more attention I pay to them for the Hobbits whenever I see them.
The Hobbits is...
that whole movie, I was like, this movie is so sick. Who is the fifth army? I still don't have an answer.
And the crazy thing too is like one thing I think we're missing too, what makes like Lord of the Rings or even The Hobbit make this world look bigger, is that score by Howard Shore. that score is something else.
And they do like the perfect little revisits too.
Mm-hmm.
I think by the time I saw The Hobbit, I didn't realize we're talking 10 years ago already. That's weird, but it's The Hobbit came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unexpected Journey turns 10 this year.
Yep. But it was like, at that point, I knew I loved The Lord of the Rings. They'd been around for 10 years, and I knew I've loved them for like 10 years. But it's things like that when they revisit like little points of the score, and you think, oh my God, that's so special. You know, that's the ring theme.
Yep.
Like, oh, that's the Shire, like the little ditty that they have when you see the Shire. That's like, oh, it's like a character in the movie. It's like you have to have that, otherwise it's not the same.
Yeah. So, and that's what I'm saying is like, I want to see how they have a different composer for this TV series, but we already went, like, was it episode 2? We already went to the Mines of Moria when we see how it's thriving and how it's alive. Where when we saw it in Fellowship, how everybody was pretty much everybody was dead. You know what I mean? So it's like, so it's kind of cool to see that aspect of it when it was people are alive, people are living, it's thriving, to what we saw in the movie. So like these little tie-ins make me at times excited. Like, yeah, okay, I see this, but then also like you're saying, we don't know these characters right now, besides one or two of them that we know because of they were brought back in The Hobbit, and we saw them in Lord of the Rings. So it's more or less like Nick said. I mean, like Randy said, you know, was that Gandalf? He was joking, but that's what I thought when that guy there. They got him listed as the Stranger. So it's like, who is this character now? Is that a made-up character? Because I've never heard of the Stranger from anything, and I know I didn't read the books, but I've never heard of somebody called the character the Stranger. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how it all evolves into this. So they're giving us little tidbits here and there, which is cool. And, you know, like Gimli, remember when he went to, when we, like, he says, let's go to my family, my cousins in the Mines of Moria. I'm guessing, if I'm correct, the king who they introduced in the Rings of Power and the, you know, one of the, you know, the one that Elrond was talking to who was pissed off at him, that are now, you know, squashing it, is he the one that when they go into in Fellowship and the Mines of Moria, is he the one that's laying in that crypt that's dead? Because he mentions that was his cousin.
That's like years and years and years and years. Because it's like Gimli's dad is one of the dwarves, one of the
hobbits. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So,
like, that's years and years and years. And so this is years and years and years and years and years. Like, are these the same dwarves? That's what I start to feel. I'm like, I don't know how long dwarves live. And that's like, you're an idiot. You're a fool. You don't know the dwarves.
Well, the funny thing is you have one is called Darwin, and the other one's called like I looked it up on IMDb. It's called Darwin the third or fourth.
Yeah,
so I'm wondering if it's the same. Yeah. So it's like, and like I said, I don't know how long dwarves live. Do they live for hundreds of years or not? You know what I mean? So that's another thing.
And also, like, how long is, like, in Fellowship, Bilbo's 111th birthday? And then, like, at the end of Return of the King, how much time is that between throwing the ring in the fire and then, like, the end of Return of the King? Because Bilbo looks old as shit at the end of Return of the King.
To me, it seems like it's like months. I would take it as months.
Maybe a few months have passed. But wouldn't it have to have been like years for him to look so much older? I don't know.
Well, if you think about it, in Fellowship, when he gives the ring to Frodo, that's it. He's relieved. He goes on his journey. Yeah. When Frodo gets stabbed and they bring him to Lothlorien, next thing you know, when he sees Bilbo again, he has grayish, like he's gray hair. You can see he's a little older. So it's taking its toll. Like age is catching up with him. Question is, if he never had the ring, would he have lived to 111 years?
There it is. because the other hobbits don't look any older. But like
No.
Sam has got married and like had a child, so it's like, I don't know. It's another really good part. A lot of people bitch about the ending of Return of the King. I like the ending of Return of the King. Like the more I watch it over the years, it's like it needed a long. It couldn't just credit. Like couldn't just end. Like we did it. Like couldn't just be like the end of Avengers. Like we did it. Go team. All right. And
Yeah,
then,
bro.
like it's done.
We just spent 9 hours with these characters, right? Like, let them.
Yeah.
It had to like. There's the scene where they're all in the bar, or the pub, or the tavern, or whatever they fucking call it, and it's like
Watering hole.
they all order drinks, and they're all just kind of sitting there, and it's like they're reflecting. That's again, I talk about like the scale, like the enormity of it. It's like it acknowledges the fact that these little guys shouldn't have been a part of that big thing, but like they were, and it's like you kind of say it didn't just end. It wasn't just like and they all lived happily ever, and everyone bowed, and that was it. It was like what now? And it kind of answered that like in real life, if that were a thing, you would probably just go back to your like normal life, and like there's that scene they're all sitting in the bar kind of looking around like shit, this isn't really as cool as like when we were storming the castle last week or whatever. Like I like that ending, how it ties up, and it's like and Sam did what he said he was gonna do. He talked to the girl. He figured if he could fucking go to the volcano mountain, he could talk to the girl at the bar, so that's what he did, and it worked.
And it's crazy too, because if you think about it, I like that ending has like two meanings. Like I like how it ended, but also when they come riding back into the Shire, into town, their village, they're all like smiling, like, "Yep, we did it." But the Shire doesn't even know what the hell happened.
Yeah.
So like it's crazy because every race, whether it was the elves or the Ents, those big ass trees, the Ents and all, like every race that they were with, fighting against and all that, respects them and knows who they are now, but yet their own kind doesn't even know what they did.
Yeah.
And they're thinking they're going to get like a hero's welcome home, like you were seeing at the bar. They're reflecting, and to them, to the hobbits, it's or to them at the Shire, it's just another normal day. Nothing's happened.
Yeah.
This is how we live. This is our life. And to them now, what they thought was a normal life, it is now a boring life because of what they just went through.
Yeah. And it's like they don't have to go into like crazy detail with that. Like they just have that scene, like they're sitting in the bar, like, and we're drinking our beer. Like they're just like, this is weird. And they do the same thing in The Hobbit. Bilbo comes to them, and they're selling all his shit. And they're like, we thought you died. You left and just didn't come back, so we just assumed you died. And he was like, that was like the first time that anybody had done that from the fire. That's why I like that. Like, I like that kind of acknowledgement. Like, it wasn't just like, and then we did the big, and the big thing was done. We did it. The big thing. It was like, it was done, and we still got about a half hour left of the movie to, like, show you, like, the changing of time. Like, that's why Frodo leaves. And it's more emotional, having spent that little bit of time with them kind of feeling like, Sam wants to start a family. Merry and Pippin are like better suited to stay there, and Frodo's just like, "Fuck this! I saved the world. I want to go do that again or something. Like I need to get on this boat." That's where he leaves, and it's more like sad. And then Sam goes home, and then the credits roll.
So is Arya the Frodo of Game of Thrones?
Could be.
She killed the Night King and then got on the boat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of. Yeah, she like did the thing and was like, "Yeah, I'm not staying out. I'm not sleeping with another guy." She did that once. And she was like, I'm not hooking up with another man. I'm gonna leave. And Frodo is like, yeah, it's like Sam gets married and has kids, and it's like Frodo's like, that's not for me. I can see that this isn't my path.
I mean, I think one of the best lines, and like I know we're talking about the Hobbit, but you have to go back to Lord of the Rings, especially Return of the King, is when, all the hobbits walk. You got everybody there. Viggo Mortensen is standing there, and they bow, and he goes, "Little ones, you bow to no one." And he, the king, bows to them, and everybody does that right there.
Boss shit.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Perfectly executed scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the meme with guys like saluting.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's all four of them. It's not just Frodo.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all of them.
It's all four of them. Like you know, Pippin or Merry is out like with the armor on and all that shit. He's with what's her name on the horse, and she picks him up. I'm like, that's so good. And like you said earlier, like if that came out now,
oh gosh,
like, woke. What a woman! Yeah. You're telling me a woman did this. And like she takes off her thing and she's like, "I am no man."
No man. Yep.
Yeah. In the face. I'm like, that's sick. I'm sorry, but that's sick as hell. Like, there's.
Yes.
What would a guy have said that was more badass than that? Like, took it off.
Thanks, bro.
Like, whatever. You did cool. That's sick as hell. And she picked up Merry and put him on her horse. He got to be a part of the shit. But it's like now, it's like woke. It's like you're telling me you're fine with the fact that a hobbit can get out there and fight, but like a human woman, that's where you're drawing your line. No.
It's just, these movies came out, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, they came out at the perfect window of time right now. That's the way I see it.
Simpler time.
Because if these 6 movies would have been released later or in our time right now, they all would have been shit on. No matter how good, bad, or indifferent, somebody would have found something to complain about.
The fact, and I was even looking at, a lot of these things that people are talking about, like Marvel CGI, which are not all unfounded. Like sometimes you see things and it's like, and you hear stories about how the CGI artists are treated across the industry. Marvel kind of gets most of that because they're the biggest thing, but it's all across the industry.
Yeah.
They show things and it's like, look at this green screen horse shit. There's multiple times in the Lord of the Rings trilogy where I was watching it, I was like, well, yeah, that's green screen, obviously. There's like a scene in the Two Towers, I think it's Two Towers, where Legolas is like talking to Aragorn outside at night, and it's just very clearly green screen. Like they are not where they are. It is not nighttime where they are. It is just very clearly them like on a soundstage. But like it's also fine. Like I'm like Middle Earth doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Anything that you see that does exist is either a painting or just New Zealand. Like it's like this is just New Zealand in the background. That's just some mountains they found in New Zealand. That's not Mount Fuck All or whatever the name of the mountain is. It's some mountain in New Zealand. So that's what I'm always like. If it came out now, people would be like, "Wow, you couldn't even find the real Mountain Dew." Like you had to, and it's like, no, it had to be green screen. Cave trolls don't exist. Man. We had to.
Well, the great thing about both those trilogies is they used CGI and practical effects. Yeah. And I know in the Hobbit, what they would do too is the scenery. Well, it's New Zealand; it's fantastic. They would take pictures of the scenery, and in certain scenes, because of the green screen, they would make up their own scenery by mix matching. Well, we'll take part of this picture and put it into this one. So it's like that would change the scenery around. So that was kind of cool how they did that aspect of it too.
Yeah, somebody would have a problem with that today.
No, yeah,
I don't know what. It would just be like, I don't know.
That cloud is not in the right place.
Today, it would be similar to the show.
Is it Nope?
Yeah.
Is this Nope or is this The Hobbit?
The cloud is not in the right place. Yeah.
It's like if it was made today, it would be similar to the show. There would be
probably like. I say that everything ever created has a fan. Everything ever created will be bitched about. It doesn't matter what it is. Absolutely. Someone will complain.
Yeah.
Like I tell people all the time, whatever your favorite movie of all time is,
that's somebody's least
worst movie that they hate.
Some Trekkie fucking hates my favorite movie of all time.
Oh, for sure.
That's fine. You know? It's fine. He's wrong, and that's fine.
There are Harry Potter fans who still don't like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I always think there was the episode of South Park where they were like dressed up like Lord of the Rings, and they were like, come on, and like doing the whole Lord of the Rings thing. They go outside and there's some kids dressed up like Harry Potter. I'm like, oh my god, look at these losers! Like they're just like making fun of them. That's what I think of. Like, it's like Harry Potter's great. There was not a single bad Harry Potter movie or book. As much as we don't want to admit that now, but it's like really, those movies were consistently great every time.
Yeah.
But
And it's like, but still, when you think of them like in terms of Lord of the Rings, it was like, yeah, that's pussy shit. Like that's not
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
all 3 Hobbit movies might be better than all 3 Fantastic Beasts, though.
Yeah. Pretty close. I had fun with the
It's
Fantastic
definitely
Beasts movies.
close.
You're not
I-
wrong. Yeah.
I would say And Where to Find Them is the closest to any Hobbit movie.
Maybe the first Fantastic Beasts might be better than the first Hobbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe.
But
Not
yeah, it's
necessarily,
close.
but like maybe, or at least as good. But like, yeah, the Hobbit movies got progressively better.
'Cause, like,
I thought that-
Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings always came out like a month from each other, and Fantastic Beasts and The Hobbit didn't even release anywhere near each other.
No.
And they came from the same
Yeah, for sure.
studio. Not that
Yeah,
anybody
like, really,
cares.
like 2002, we really had Attack of the Clones, Spider-Man, Chamber of Secrets, and The Two Towers.
That's crazy.
Right?
That's nuts.
That's
And-
crazy.
And Goldmember.
Right?
So that was like a crazy year.
And Die Another Day.
I want to say, both of those are new line. Austin Powers and Goldmember and The Two Towers, and the Lord of the Rings. I think all had like 5-day release windows, but they tallied up what they actually made on like their weekends. And Austin Powers and Goldmember technically had a higher weekend than The Two Towers.
Didn't Two
It's
Towers get a Wednesday?
But The Two Towers did, like, not including its Wednesday, Thursday, but like its Friday to Sunday was not as high as Austin Powers' Friday to Sunday.
It was cold outside.
They have to bow down to that.
Goldmember was late July. Two Towers was fucking December.
But still, it was not New Line's highest Friday to Sunday.
That's hilarious.
That's really funny to me. Even though
That's
it means
crazy.
nothing. Even though it's nothing.
Did Goldmember outgrow Die Another Day that year?
Yeah. Damn. 2002 was nuts.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Even like Signs and like Ice Age. And Jesus Christ. What else came out in 2002? Like Mike. Men in
Like
Black
Mike.
2.
Was
Big
that
Summer.
Jason X Halloween Resurrection?
Yeah, it was. That was a big year for Nick. That was my 12th year on the earth.
Oh shit. Completely blanking.
Damn. I think Final Destination 2 came out that year. There's a lot of shit. A lot of nonsense movies that I like loved.
For all the Hollywood does nothing original people today. 2002 was a lot of franchise sequel shit.
Mhm.
That's true. Yeah. Men in Black 2. Because why not? It was 5 years.
What was the big Disney release that year? Like Treasure Planet?
Lilo and Stitch.
Was that 02?
That was the summer.
Yeah. I think Treasure. Wait, is it?
Treasure
when
Planet
did
was
Treasure
Christmas
Planet
time.
Lilo and
I remember
Stitch
my
was summer.
My dad took me and my sister to the movies Christmas time, like Christmas break. It was like after Christmas. And we insisted on seeing the Chamber of Secrets. And he wanted to see Treasure Planet. And like we insisted on seeing Harry Potter, even though he did not give a shit about Harry Potter. I remember him like looking back now, subtly trying to be like, what if we just saw Treasure Planet?
There's no
We were
wrong
like,
answer.
Treasure
So
Planet
I
came out on, I think, Thanksgiving, because I just looked it up. November 27th of 2002. Man, that's crazy. 20 years of
Kind of
that.
a flop in theaters, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
People didn't realize that it was just Treasure Island. Even people that love it look back on it. They're like, this movie was so slept on. It was so original. I'm like, it really wasn't original at all. It was great.
Yeah, it's
but
good.
It was just Treasure Island. It was just Treasure Island in space. It wasn't original at all. But it was really good.
60 Disney animated releases. Are any of them really original?
Lilo and Stitch was kind of original.
Yeah.
But not really. Like, I'm sure there's some other. It's like E.T., but more funny. What if they put E.T. in Hawaii and made it funny?
Pretty much.
It's like, Lilo and Stitch. But whatever. I eventually saw all of the movies that I wanted to see that year.
And every year.
Yeah.
So, since we're off topic, are we wrapping it up?
No. Who's the Fifth Army? Somebody listening, really explain it. I don't want to hear like, well, Legolas came in with such and such. Like, no, that's not a Fifth Army. The women and the children, it's like, no, they were part of the town. That was one army. Like, Thorin and his people, that's not an army. They were dwarves. And Bilbo and Gandalf weren't with them. So they were just part of the dwarves. Anyway.
Well,
that's what.
Saying we need to Google. I don't think it's kind of funny that like the main dwarf guy at the end, he's like the leader of the battle. It's clearly Billy Connolly's voice, but like it wasn't him as the dwarf. It was like a completely CGI dwarf for some reason. I thought that was an odd choice.
So Nick, I got your answer. I got the man. They just they say they got them listed as. They got the dwarves, the elves, men. Then they got the orcs of Golder and the orcs of Mount Gundabad. That's what the
two different armies of orcs. That's a loophole.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
they came together. They like rolled up together.
Yeah,
that's a loophole.
One army.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, that's a big army. That's why the dwarves and the elves are like scrapping, and then they're like, all right, fine, we'll work together. Like they do.
Yeah.
And then they fight together. That's why, because it's like, wow, look at that one giant army.
Okay, who's the fifth army in The Hobbit? The five armies are elves, the men, the dwarves, the goblins, and wargs, and the eagles. That's a different answer. But yeah, next time somebody asks me, you in what army? I'm going to say the orcs of Mount Gundabad.
Goblins are goblins. The orcs show up riding those big shits, like those big things.
Mm-hmm.
They're just part of it. They're not like their own army.
Like I'll be honest with you, I can't even recollect. Like, okay, there's two different orcs from two different locations, but to me they all look the same. Like I couldn't tell one from like if I can see if like one was like distinctive, like it looks from the other. Okay, I can see that, but to me when they were all there, I couldn't tell who was on who.
Even in the Lord of the Rings, like different orcs look different, but they were all together as part of like one thing. It was like the stormtroopers take their helmets off, they all look different, but they put the stormtrooper, they're all part of one army. They're the stormtroopers, and like Grand Moff whatever, and Admiral whatever, and Captain whatever, they're all part of the Empire. That's one army. So like, two different armies of orcs, they should be fighting each other. Otherwise, that's one army.
Well, there's Crip orcs and there's Blood orcs. East side orcs and West side orcs.
Oh my god!
Yeah, but like they all came together. They tied the bandanas together like that one time. Like that's what it did. Sound like to me that's one army.
At least in Lord of the Rings, you had the
purple army.
Yeah, the orcs and the Uruk-hai. You could tell the difference from those two. You know what I mean? That's a big difference.
But they were still on like the same side.
True.
But even still, like something like that, I'd be like, oh fuck, the Uruk-hai are here to stake their claim or whatever. But like watching the whole movie, I'm like, okay, there's orcs, there's elves, there's people, there's dwarves. That's it. Like, I was like, they keep adding people.
But there are a lot more orcs than everybody else.
Maybe, but that's the point. Like, it's like, oh, we all have to come together to fight these orcs. Two armies of orcs? I don't know. Maybe it's the movie's fault.
It's madness.
Maybe it didn't explain it.
All right.
But other than that movie kicks ass, and I feel like needs a little more. I think the end's cool. There's like the little song at the end that Billy Boyd sings. He played Pippin, and it's like a really nice little song. Makes you feel like the whole thing is actually coming to a close, like for real. Like, wow, we did it. We tied it all up, and it's done. Like the Rise of Skywalker didn't have that. As much as I love Star Wars, it didn't really have the big thing that made it feel like, and we're putting it on. Other than her saying her name was Skywalker, which people hated, I guess.
All right, kids. Jump in the comments. Let us know how you're liking the show on Amazon Prime. Rank the 6 movies.
Explain the 5 armies.
Yeah, explain why there's 2 armies of orcs. Yeah, just let us know what you think about the franchise. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Maybe 4 deep. Maybe 3. Maybe just 2. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I'll think something. Strike League. Yo, y'all are faker than prosthetics. Y'all are faker than cosmetics. No idea where y'all headed. You the reason she got pregnant. Your entire persona's an illusion because you was losing and don't want to get exposed that you don't know what you doing. Got beef with the strange because I'm trying to get more dough. Got beef with the lames because I'm not impressed with your flow. I'm not a drug dealer in this world. It's too many rodents. Only birds I flipped are middle fingers my way when I was joking. And the funny thing about it is it's from those who know me. No worries when it's a homie, but you a fucking jabroni. I'll take your pussy ass hashtag and play tic-tac-toe. Bust your fucking ass and put you on the shelf where the knickknacks go. Picture my dog E-Sig with a big afro. Don't laugh though. Fuck around and leave with a kicked asshole. You doing dope shit and you think it's enough till you transform to a piece of shit like you Shia LaBeouf. And chill until the next episode.